What if you woke up tomorrow and the largest desert on Earth was completely covered in green? 9 million square kilometers of sand transformed into lush, living, breathing forest. Overnight, would it save the planet? Would it destroy it? Would it trigger wars or end them? Every single answer is in this video, and none of them are simple. The Sahara covers more land than the entire continental United States. It is not just a desert. It is a force of nature that controls weather patterns across the entire planet. Right now, the Sahara sends millions of tons of dust across the Atlantic every single year. That dust fertilizes the Amazon rainforest. Without it, the Amazon begins to struggle immediately. So here is the first question nobody asks. What happens to the Amazon if the Sahara goes green? The dust stops. The fertilizer disappears. The lungs of the earth start gasping within years. The Sahara going green overnight means one thing, above all others, water. Enormous, impossible amounts of water appearing where none existed before. Underground aquifers beneath the Sahara hold ancient water reserves. Reserves so vast they could fill multiple oceans. Trapped beneath the sand for millions of years, if those reserves suddenly released simultaneously, the transformation would be catastrophic in its speed and scale. Beautiful and terrifying at once. Within hours of greening, temperatures across North Africa drop dramatically. Green surfaces absorb less heat than sand. The Sahara has been heating the atmosphere for thousands of years. Now it stops. That temperature drop triggers immediate changes in wind patterns across 3 continents. Europe, Asia, and the Americas all feel the shift within days. The weather rewrites itself globally. Here comes the first massive twist, and it hits Europe first. The Sahara's heat drives the weather systems that bring rain to southern Europe every single year. A green Sahara disrupts those systems completely. Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece face dramatically altered rainfall within months. Some dry areas get wetter. Some wet areas face drought for the first time. The agricultural systems of an entire continent are forced to adapt overnight with zero warning. The soil beneath the Sahara sand is ancient and mid-rock. Dormant seeds lie buried for thousands of years. Some belong to plant species no living human has ever seen. Within weeks, grasses emerge first, then shrubs, then the beginnings of forest canopy in the wettest zones. The transformation looks like evolution happening in fast forward. Animals begin moving into the green Sahara within days of the first vegetation appearing. Birds arrive first, drawn by insects emerging from the newly wet soil. Then small mammals follow. Then the large predators begin testing the edges of this new territory from every direction. Lions from the south, hyenas, wild dogs. Every predator on the continent senses the change. Within 1 year, the green Sahara supports wildlife populations Africa hasn't seen in 10,000 years. Herds crossing territory that was impassable desert just months before. Breathtaking. 1 billion people live around the edges of the Sahara. For generations, communities have survived at the margins of the harshest environment on Earth. Over NATO land their ancestors could not farm becomes the most fertile new territory on the planet. The scramble for that land begins immediately, and it is not peaceful. 14 countries share borders with the Sahara right now. Every single one has a claim, historical, geographical, political, on what that land becomes. Within weeks of the greening, border disputes escalate across North Africa simultaneously. The green Sahara doesn't just change the landscape, it rewrites the entire geopolitical map. International organizations scramble to establish legal frameworks for land that never needed them before. Who owns a desert that just became the most valuable agricultural territory on Earth? A green Sahara positioned between Europe, Africa, and the Middle East becomes the most strategic location on the planet. The nation that controls it controls the food supply of 3 continents. That kind of power has started every major war in human history. This would be no different. Now, let's go deeper, because the atmospheric effects are where this gets truly planet scale. The Sahara reflects enormous amounts of solar radiation back into space every single day. Green surfaces absorb that radiation instead of reflecting it. In the short term, the planet warms in specific regions while cooling in others. The balance shifts unpredictably. Climate scientists would disagree violently about whether a green Sahara helps or accelerates climate change. The honest answer is, nobody knows. Nothing like this has happened this fast before. What we do know, the Amazon receives approximately 22,000 tons of Saharan dust annually. That dust carries phosphorus, the essential nutrient the Amazon's soil cannot produce itself. Without that dust, Amazon tree growth slows. Biodiversity drops. The forest begins a long, slow decline. Now here comes the twist that hits hardest of all. The green Sahara has existed before. Approximately 11,000 years ago, the Sahara was green, lush, full of lakes and rivers. Humans lived there. Hippos swam in Saharan rivers. Giraffes grazed across what is now pure sand. It was called the African Humanid period, and it lasted for thousands of years. Rock paintings found deep in the current desert show cattle, swimmers, and river scenes. Evidence of a world so different it feels like mythology. But it was real, completely real. The Sahara has always been a pendulum, swinging between green and desert on geological timescales. What our scenario does is swing that pendulum overnight instead of over thousands of years. Natural systems can absorb gradual change. They cannot absorb overnight transformation at this scale. Every ecosystem connected to the Sahara goes into shock simultaneously. The Mediterranean Sea changes salinity as new river systems drain into it from the green Sahara. Marine ecosystems face conditions they have never encountered before. Fish populations shift. Coral systems face new pressure from changed water chemistry. The ocean doesn't stay separate from what happens on land. It never did, and never will. A green Sahara creates its own weather system from scratch. Vegetation releases moisture through transpiration, and that moisture becomes rain that falls back on the vegetation. This self-reinforcing cycle, called a biotic pump, could sustain the green Sahara indefinitely. Or it could collapse in a single dry season. Nobody can predict which. The first 5 years are the most critical. Establish the cycle, and it sustains itself for centuries. Fail to establish it, and the desert returns. Human intervention in those first 5 years determines everything. Plant the wrong species, and you create a biological monoculture that collapses under the first drought. Plant strategically, protect the soil, manage the water, and you potentially create the greatest ecosystem recovery in history. The difference is human decision-making under impossible pressure. What happens to the hundreds of millions of people in Saharan edge communities? Some gain land and water they never had. Generational poverty in specific regions ends overnight. Others lose a unique cultural, economic, and spiritual relationship they had with the desert that defined them. The Tuareg, the Berber, the Bedouin. Their knowledge, their identity, their entire civilization is built around a landscape that no longer exists. A green Sahara erases cultures built over thousands of years of adaptation. That loss is invisible in satellite images, but it is as real as any ecosystem collapse anywhere on this planet. And yet, the potential is staggering. The food security of 1 billion people could be transformed. Renewable energy potential doubles. Migration pressures ease dramatically. Species thought extinct for thousands of years could return to territory they originally evolved in. The biological diversity of a green Sahara would rival the Amazon within centuries. New rivers, new lakes, new mountain ecosystems fed by moisture that never reached those elevations before. A continent transformed by the unstoppable power of water finding green. The green Sahara would be the single greatest environmental event in recorded human history. No volcanic eruption, no ice age retreat, no flood compares to this scale. The honest answer to whether a green Sahara saves the world or breaks it is both. Simultaneously, it saves systems while collapsing others. It heals while disrupting. That complexity, that refusal to be simply good or simply bad, is what makes this scenario so powerful. The real world never offers simple answers. The Sahara going green overnight is impossible by current science. But 11,000 years ago, it happened naturally. Slowly. Over centuries, it was real. It was here. Which means the question was never whether it could happen. The question was always, are we ready for what comes after? And the answer right now is absolutely not. If this completely changed how you think about deserts, climate, and the fragility of everything, L-I-K-E. Subscribe and stay close. Because on this channel, the impossible gets more real every single week.